Harbor View Estates is a nice place. Too nice. The kind of place where the grass is a uniform, genetically modified green, and the only sound after 8 p.m. is the gentle hum of central air conditioning. I bought here because it was quiet and close to the water. I'm a water guy. Calms me down after a shift dealing with, well, the worst of humanity. My pride and joy isn't my car or my grill. It's my 22-foot Catalina sailboat. Nothing fancy, but she's mine. I keep her on a trailer in my own damn driveway. She's clean, she's covered, and she's ready for whenever I get 2 days off in a row to escape to the lake. Enter Doreen. Doreen Shifley, yes, related to the legendary Brenda from the Sycamore Glen story. It's a dynasty of despair. Doreen is the HOA president of Harbor View. She's got the uniform, the visor, the oversized sunglasses, the walking around with a clipboard vibe. She's the kind of person who says things like, "We have standards," as if she's curating the Louvre and not a subdivision full of vinyl-sided houses. The first letter arrived on a Tuesday. Cream-colored, heavy stock paper. Felt like a subpoena. Harbor View Estates Homeowners Association. Official violation notice #HV 781. Dear resident of 1142 Buena Vista Drive, it has come to our attention that you are storing a watercraft on your property in clear violation of the community's aesthetic standards. Specific violation: Bylaw 22, Section 4, no boats, trailers, recreational vehicles, or other non-passenger automotive equipment shall be stored in driveway or front yard view for a period exceeding 24 consecutive hours. All such items must be stored in an approved, enclosed structure or rear yard, subject to ARC approval of screening. Your vessel is deemed a visual blight and an eyesore. You have 48 hours to relocate it to an off-site storage facility. Failure to comply will result in a fine of $100 per day until the violation is remedied.
Governi yourself accordingly.
Doreen Shifley, President.
Harbor View Estates.
An eyesore? Blight? My Catalina's name is Windswept, you Philistin. I laughed it off. I'd read the bylaws before buying. They were vague. I figured I'd just go talk to her. Big mistake. I caught Doreen the next day while she was measuring the height of a neighbor's petunias with a ruler. "Hey, Doreen? Ben from 1142. Got your letter about my boat." She didn't even look up from her petunias. "It's not a discussion, Benjamin. It's a violation. The rules are clear. It's on a registered trailer in my own driveway. It's not leaking. It's covered. How is this any different from someone having an SUV parked out front?" "An SUV is a passenger vehicle," she said, finally turning to me with a sigh of profound inconvenience. "Approved for daily use. Your boat is a leisure item. It projects an image of slothfulness. It lowers property values." "Slothfulness," I chuckled. "Doreen, I'm a sheriff's sergeant. I work 50-hour weeks. I think I've earned a little leisure." Her eyes flickered for a second. Not with respect, but with recalculations. A cop? Maybe not as easy to push around as the retired couple with the unauthorized bird feeder. "The rules don't make exceptions for occupation, Sergeant," she said, loading the title with sarcasm. "The fine stands. Move it, or the fees will continue to accrue." The pettiness was awe-inspiring. This wasn't about rules, it was about control. I didn't move the boat. Principle. The fines started piling up in my online portal. $100, $200, $500. I stopped paying my HOA dues entirely, putting the money into an escrow account instead. I'd been on the job long enough to know. When someone is power tripping, you don't feed the beast. You document it. I bought a nice, discreet security camera for the front door. Standard procedure. Then the next act began. A new letter arrived, this time from the Harbor View Estates Compliance Division. I'd never heard of such a thing. Final notice. Intent to lien and levy. Failure to remedy violation HV 781 has resulted in accumulated fines of $1,200. Furthermore, your failure to pay quarterly HOA dues constitutes a default. The association is prepared to place a lien on your property and pursue forcible removal and destruction of the violating article. You can expect a visit from our compliance officer to assess the situation. Forcible removal and destruction. They were threatening to destroy my boat, my property, over a bylaw dispute. The sheer audacity made my head spin. A few days later, I was off duty, wearing a ratty old t-shirt and shorts, washing windswept. A white sedan with magnetic signs that read, HOA security, pulled up. A guy got out, mid-40s, trying to look official in a cheap polo shirt and khakis. He had a badge holder on his belt. It looked off, like something from a Halloween costume. "Sir," he said, puffing out his chest, "I'm Officer Miller with HOA compliance. I'm here about the unauthorized vessel." I turned off the hose. "You have a badge there, son?" He looked startled. "I'm with the association, right? But that badge," I said, nodding to his belt. "It says, Certified Compliance Officer." "Who certified you? The state? The county?" "It's an HOA credential," he said, flustered. "Now, are you going to comply with the removal order? We have the authority to tow this immediately if you do not." I smiled. "You have the authority? Show me your paperwork. Show me the court order that grants you, a private citizen, the right to seize and destroy private property." He blinked. "The HOA bylaws are a civil contract," I finished for him, "not criminal law. You have no more authority to take my boat than I have to go into Doreen's backyard and confiscate her unapproved pergola. Now, I'd like you to leave my property before I call the actual police and report you for impersonation and trespassing." His bravado vanished. He muttered something, got back in his fake security car, and sped off. My doorbell camera had caught the whole beautiful exchange. That was the last straw. This wasn't just petty anymore. It was veering into illegal territory. Officer Miller wasn't a real cop, but his attempt to intimidate me was real. Time to go to work. I started a case file, right there on my kitchen table. I had all violation letters, video of Officer Miller's visit and his fake badge, a log of every interaction. Then I did what I do best. I investigated. I pulled all the public records for the HOA. I looked up Doreen Schiffley, and I started noticing things. First, HOA Security or Compliance Division wasn't listed anywhere in the bylaws. It didn't exist. Doreen had invented it. Second, Officer Miller was actually Steve Miller, Doreen's brother-in-law, a failed used car salesman with a history of small claims court judgments against him for shady business practices. Third, and this was the jackpot, I decided to see how Doreen was complying with her own rules. A few evening walks with my dog around the neighborhood revealed a lot. Her trash cans were permanently visible from the street, Bylaw 11, Sector 2. Her fence was painted a non-approved shade of eggshell, not colonial white, Bylaw 9, Sector 5. And the crown jewel, a massive, brand new solar array on her roof. A great idea, but according to the bylaws I had, any external modification required ARC approval. I checked the minutes. It was never submitted, never approved. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. She was threatening to destroy my boat while her house was a carnival of violations. An HOA meeting was coming up. I suited up, not in my uniform, but in a crisp civilian button-down. I wanted to be Ben the homeowner, not Sergeant Evans. The meeting was in the clubhouse. Doreen held the gavel like a scepter. She went through the agenda with brutal efficiency, approving the new $5,000 "Welcome to Harbor View" sign, fining the Johnson family for a wilted hanging basket, discussing the critical issue of mailbox polish. Then, she opened the floor for comments. I stood up. "Doreen, Ben Evans from Buena Vista. I have a few questions about the enforcement of our bylaws." She sighed, as if I'd asked her to solve world hunger. "We've been over this, Benjamin. Your boat." "Not about the boat," I said smoothly. "About enforcement priorities. For instance, I've noticed several homes with persistent, unaddressed violations. Creates confusion. Are the rules for everyone, or just some of us?" "Of course they're for everyone," she snapped. "If you see a violation, File a Form 12B. I see. So, if I were to file a Form 12B for, say, unapproved architectural modifications like a large solar panel installation on a roof without ARC approval, that would be processed exactly the same as a complaint about a boat. Her face went pale. She knew where this was going. The other board members shifted uncomfortably. Solar panels are eco-friendly, she stammered. They're good for the community. I agree. They're great. But the rules, as you've told me repeatedly, are the rules. They don't make exceptions, right? I let the question hang in the air. And while we're on the topic of enforcement, could you clarify the role of the HOA Compliance Division? It's not in our governing documents. And could you explain the legal basis for their authority to threaten the forcible removal and destruction of private property? Because from where I'm standing, that sounds a lot like criminal threats and conversion. The room was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Doreen was bright red. This is an outrageous attempt to disrupt this meeting. Your fine stand. Your boat is an eyesore. This discussion is over. She tried to slam the gavel down, but the damage was done. The other homeowners in the room were looking at her, then at me with new eyes. A week later, I was coming home from a late shift, still in uniform. As I turned onto my street, I saw it, the white sedan. Steve Miller and another large guy were in my driveway. They had hooked my boat trailer to a truck. They were actually trying to steal it. I hit my lights. Not the full siren, just the silent red and blues. I pulled in behind them, blocking them in. I got out of my cruiser. My utility belt was on. My badge was clear. I rested my hand on my sidearm. "Evening, gentlemen," I said, my voice calm but carrying the full weight of the law. "What seems to be the problem here?" Steve Miller froze, the color draining from his face. His friend looked like he wanted to vanish into the asphalt. We're with the HOA, Steve stammered. "We have orders to tow this vessel." "Let me see your tow order," I said, walking slowly toward him. "The one signed by a judge. And while you're at it, let me see your license for operating a tow vehicle. And your registration for this truck." He had nothing. He just stood there, shaking. "I thought so," I said. "You know what we call it when someone tries to take property that doesn't belong to them? We call it grand theft. And impersonating a law enforcement officer? That's a felony. Turn around. Put your hands on the hood of the truck." I cuffed Steve Miller. His friend, whose name I learned was Dave, was so cooperative he almost cried. He admitted everything. Doreen had sent them. She said I was asking for it, and that the HOA's authority was absolute. I called for a patrol unit to come pick them up. As I was putting Steve in the back of my cruiser, Doreen's Lexus screeched to a halt nearby. She leaped out. "What is the meaning of this? Unhand him. He works for me." I turned to her, my face a mask of professional neutrality. "Ma'am, these men are under arrest for attempted grand theft and criminal impersonation. You are not to interfere with an arrest." Her jaw dropped. But the boat. The violation." "Ma'am," I said, my voice cold. "The only violation I see tonight is a breach of the peace and a criminal conspiracy to commit theft. You might want to lawyer up. I'll be down at the station taking their full, sworn statements. I'm sure the district attorney will be very interested in the HOA's authority." I wish I had a picture of her face. It was the look of someone whose entire tiny, petty empire was crumbling right before her eyes. The fallout was nuclear. The arrests made the local community news. HOA President's kin arrested in bizarre boat theft attempt. The story went viral online. With the criminal case pending, the state's Attorney General's office opened an inquiry into the HOA's practices. My meticulously kept file was entered into evidence. A recall petition was started. It got every signature it needed in 24 hours. The other board members, terrified of being personally liable for Doreen's illegal schemes, voted unanimously to remove her as president. The new board's first meeting was packed. Their first order of business? Dropping all fines against me and issuing a formal apology. Officially dissolving the non-existent HOA Compliance Division. Passing an amendment to Bylaw 22, Section 4. Boats and campers on trailers are permitted to be stored in driveways, provided they are registered, insured, and well-maintained. And, my favorite, forming a committee to review and simplify the entire covenant, with me as the head of it. Doreen Schiffley moved out 2 months later. The for sale sign on her house was, I noted with satisfaction, half an inch taller than the bylaw allowed. I decided to let it slide. So, that's the story of how my houseboat, okay, my sailboat almost got me arrested, but instead got a corrupt HOA president dethroned. Windswept still sits proudly in my driveway. I even bought a little flag for her that says, I heart suit HOA. Sometimes on my days off, I see my neighbors washing their cars, their RVs parked in their driveways, their gardens sporting a few cheerful, unapproved gnomes. The neighborhood feels lighter, freer, less beige. As for Steve Miller and his friend, they took a plea deal for misdemeanor trespassing and had to do community service. Doreen was charged with conspiracy and filing a false report. She got probation and a permanent stain on her record. The moral of the story? Don't threaten to destroy a man's boat. But more importantly, know your rights. And if you're going to pretend to be the police, maybe make sure your target isn't the real thing. Thanks for listening. Stay safe out there. And check your bylaws.